just gonna put my foot on the floor and I'm not lifting till I see God or a checkered flag.
Hello, and welcome back to Racing Thoughts, an IndyCar podcast. I'm Megan Dennis.
And I'm Meg Taylor.
And season's over, my friend.
This sucks. Anyways, so yes, we have officially wrapped up the season, and we are now in the long, long drought of off-season months. And this episode, we're really just going to kind of be talking about the wrap-up of the season and, talking about our silly season news because, my God, there was so much and everything that we've got since the end of the season, really. So what do you want to start with, Megan?
Let's touch on Nashville really quickly.
Okay.
As far as that goes, I don't know if there's that much to talk about with Nashville. Joseph won. Congrats to Joseph. He got a win for the season. Home race win, which is always exciting.
I always love a home race win, but I think the funny thing too, I'm just going to very early plug our Instagram as well, because after the Nashville race, I had posted about Joseph's win saying okay, who paid an Etsy witch for this win? And Joseph had seen it. And so, did I not tell you that? Screenshot of it.
That's wonderful.
It was really funny. Yeah. So I felt really funny. And then Joseph had seen it. And I just also want this to be put out on the record as well. With the IndyCar drivers on their socials, they have access to their socials. They are on their socials. Yeah, they might have a media manager, someone who helps film content for them or anything. But no, they're creeping on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok, on everything. They're there. So if you are uncomfortable with them perceiving you as a human being, maybe don't post and tag them in things, but I don't know. I think we are funny. So anytime we post things and we tag them and they see it, I'm like, that's fun. So
yeah, it feels a little rewarding.
It does.
Every once in a while they reply back too, which that's weird.
That is
I'm just
so strange.
I didn't ask for you to be here. Respectfully.
The weirdest part, though, is when they find you without actually, you having tagged them. That's strange.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's pretty common on Twitter, but
But
we
it's
do
on
not.
Instagram that
I
it
know.
happens occasionally that I'm like, how did you find this? You don't follow us. We didn't tag you. How are you here? And then, whatever. I digress. All of this to say, Joseph won Nashville. And somebody paid an Etsy witch to do it, in my opinion. And I don't know. I thought it was a fun race. It was a
Yeah, a little bit of a
sad.
boring podium, but all in all, it was a fun race. I will say, and this is not jumping ahead to season because we'll talk about that, but I do think we talked about last episode of maybe there's someone retiring. And I don't know if you saw this, if I sent this to you or if you saw it on anything, but I thought Joseph's comment he made after the race about he was really glad with the off season because he needs to take the time away to fall in love with the sport again was really, really interesting. And I think
I did not see that. That's so interesting.
And I think maybe it was a really good thing that Joseph got this win. Not saying that he was going to retire or anything, but you can tell that how hard this season has been really, really got to him and that he's glad he has time to step away. Also, he said, and this kind of broke my heart, but because he's been booed so much this year, that they have to tell Coda that the crowd's mooing. So he doesn't know that his daddy's getting booed at. And that made me really sad.
Okay, I'm not Joseph's biggest fan, as we all know, but man, that actually is really sad. The fact that he has to lie to his child about people booing, that's actually insane.
Yeah, a toddler should not have to be being told that the crowd's mooing because of how much hate that their dad is getting.
Yeah, but then you have the people who can argue, well, it's this is the world of sports and the industry that they're in. And if you bring your child into your workplace and this is what it is, I'm not saying this by any means is acceptable. I don't think that, Coda should have to experience that at all as a child. But people are going to make that argument for sure.
Yeah. I don't
And it's
know.
like, you bring
Like,
your child into a place, you kind of expect them to, like, you have to let them integrate into the situation versus expecting everybody else to adjust. I don't know. It's a
yeah, you're valid in that. I just think it's sad
it is.
that it's happening enough that, like, a toddler was aware of it, and
Yes.
then they had to make up a story for what was happening.
Yeah, for sure. But for Joseph's sake, happy it's off season if he was like, I need the time to fall in love with the sport. I think that just kind of goes to show how, like, the highs are really high and the lows can be absolutely atrocious, and how mentally tough that these athletes have to be. Like, it's not just a physical sport, it absolutely is, but it's also like a mental game too. Like, any professional athlete has to have like a certain level of mental toughness that, is going to be tested. And I think it's a very valid and very normal thing to have like the ebbs and flows of things, of falling in love with the sport again to like the nth degree because you won back to back Indy 500s versus, oh my God, you've had like genuinely the worst season of your career. Like, it's absolutely insane. So I really hope that in this off season, Joseph finds what he needs to have a better season moving forward for next year mentally. Because there's a lot of other factors that went into his issues during the season. Wasn't just like oh, he had a few bad races. He crashed, like it was like he was at fault all the time. Like, no, a lot of these issues that happened were just wrong place, wrong time, poor qualities, poor race results, whatever the case may be. So, Joseph, I hope you find what you're looking for this off season.
Yeah. Like, all in all, Penske had a bad year. They ended up getting 2 wins out of it. I mean, Scott McLaughlin also had a bad year.
Very
So,
bad season.
I think it's, to that point of, like, falling in and out of love with it. I think we know that in our own professions too. When it gets to
100%.
the end of the school year, for us, it's that point of, like, I need a break.
Yeah.
Like, I need to have time to reset, and I think that's what we're kinda seeing to an extent of, like, having the IndyCar season compacted so much in such a
Yeah.
short amount of time, and I think that's gonna be interesting, something to worth keeping in mind going into next year when the season gets even tighter as well.
Yep, that is so true. And, like, you also have all of the issues because of with like the hybrid and some of the changes and like the track changes and stuff like that. There's a lot of different factors that go into, all right, well, how are these drivers really kind of experiencing their sport? And then, like, I always think it's really interesting of just professional athletes in general, of this mentality of their favorite sport from when they were a child is now their job. And so I constantly like question, I'm like, do you actually enjoy the sport because like you remember how much you loved it as a kid and you love the sport itself? Or are you doing this now because it's your job? And like, I do think that there's, a very fluid percentage split. Sometimes it might be 70%, I just love racing. I love this as a sport. 30%, yeah, this is my job. And then I think sometimes that can swap of like, oh my God, I don't like this sport right now. It is just my job. And so, I think unfortunately, a lot of drivers might feel like their results impact that love of the sport. But like at the end of the day, this is the sport that they fell in love with when they were kids. They love it for what it was, but it looks so different now. So I always wonder about that.
Yeah. No, I think if you talk to any pro athlete, they talk about
Hmm.
that. You know, I have
100%.
I have friends who have played in the minor leagues for pro baseball.
Mhm.
I've been fortunate enough to talk to some guys who've actually played in the majors and all this stuff they talk about too, of how, like, there's a difference the moment you start getting paid for a sport,
Yeah, 100%.
and that perception changes.
Hmm.
And it has to,
Yeah.
because then it becomes your job, and
Yeah.
it's just different.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then it also goes into, this is a total tangent, really. This really goes into is like once you do start getting paid for it, you become less of a person and more of a commodity. So then it just like all of the other stuff outside of the sport has the impact. Like they may still love the sport itself, but it's like everything else that like you have to put a dog and pony show on for becomes exhausting. It's the same thing with our profession too. Like I absolutely love when I'm in the classroom teaching, doing the fun things, but it's like all of the other responsibilities that we have make it challenging. So, not saying it's the same thing at all, but,
But there are similarities. I say
yeah,
the reason I won't go back into K-12 has nothing to do with teaching. I miss
yeah,
teaching in that regard all the time. I don't miss
yeah,
dealing with parents. I don't miss having to have morning and afternoon duties in the same regard. Like, I don't miss that side of the profession that has nothing to do with what's happening in the classroom. And it's a
yeah,
lot easier to train teachers to be teachers than it is to do that job day in, day out. And so, yeah, it's completely different, but it's also very much the exact same.
yeah. Same, but different.
To
So that's
segue
Nashville.
to segue into, I guess, people who love their job and have turned their passion into a job, Louis Foster won Rookie of the Year.
Hell
Did that
yeah,
work? Did
Louis
I segue
Foster.
that okay? How grass is draws? Did I get there?
Yeah, it's fine. It is what it is. No, but congratulations to Louis Foster. I think he absolutely deserved it. I know it was a tight race between him and Robert Schwartzman.
Well, they both won it and lost it
Yeah,
in Nashville at multiple different times of it
yeah,
changing back and forth.
yeah, yeah. So that was really interesting to watch. But overall, I really think Louis Foster was so consistent. I think that's really what I think won it for him is Robert absolutely had moments of his brilliance that really showed how good of a driver he is and showed that he deserved to be there, showed that he deserved to be fighting with everybody. Absolutely. But, unfortunately, I think he fell victim to a lot of growing pains with Prima as a team, coming in and being new as an entire organization into IndyCar, that, at least Louis Foster had a little bit more of a stable foundation to build off of, that allowed him to be consistent day in and day out.
For anyone curious on the points breakdown, Louis ended up winning by 2 points. So he won with 213, Robert Schwartzman with 212, Jacob Abel with 123, and technically Kyle Larson is classified as a rookie with a total of 6 points.
Woohoo.
I still don't really know how he classifies as a rookie considering he did the 500 last year, but
That's my question. How is he technically considered a rookie?
I don't know. I don't think we're going to have to worry about him next year anyways, so I don't care.
Well, bye. Okay.
Stay in NASCAR, Kyle Larson. I don't care. All right. Meg, give your 6 words on the 2025 IndyCar season.
Okay, 6 words. Way to put me on the spot.
It's like what I did on the first day of class with my students. They hated it.
I hate this too. This is terrible.
Okay, just give me your overall thoughts. It can be in more than 6 words.
I think too short is part of it. The too compact, too many commercials. That's my biggest thing. And, you've got Pillow perfection. I think that really kind of sums everything up. Everything else that happened around Alex Pillow being Alex Pillow.
I think that's a good way to put it. I think it would be really interesting because we did a mid-season kind of recap halfway
Yeah.
through, and maybe that's something it's worth looking at us doing for next episode if we go back and listen to that
Yeah.
and then kind of compare to where we're at now. Because I know, beginning half the season we talked about how just honestly how boring
It was.
it
Yeah,
was
I'm
boring,
remembering
and
that
then
now.
it got it more exciting.
It got crazy. It got very chaotic with a lot of cautions, which was, that was a major, uh, not concern. What's the word I'm looking for?
It just made
That
it
was
more interesting. Like we just
yeah, it was
didn't
a
have
major
anything.
factor. That's the word I was looking for.
Factor is a good word.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was a major factor in why the beginning part of the season was so boring was we did not have cautions, but I feel like that if I don't remember if I said this or if this was part of the conversation of the hybrid was not really being pushed to its full limit before the 500. And then after the 500, it just kind of, ramped up. Everyone started really using it. We saw a lot of issues with the hybrid power and the engines and all of that kind of stuff, how that impacted the weight within the chassis and the car and how that had started to impact how cars were crashing, all of that kind of stuff. I think it was boring and then it got chaotic and then it was just kind of well, Pillow's inevitable. So it felt boring in that sense. Yeah, there was that, championship contention with Pato for a little bit, but we knew that really wasn't going to happen. Even my delusional self can admit that
It
that
was
really
always a stretch at
it was
best.
always going to be a stretch. It was going to be one of those like Hail Mary, bottom of the fourth, got 10 seconds left. You have to bomb it 80 yards down the field for a touchdown to win the game. Like, that's kind of what Pato's championship fight felt like. It could happen. It could have happened, but it really likely wasn't going to. And so, you know, even within Nashville too, like I feel like this kind of exemplifies how I had felt of like, oh my God, it was so exciting. There was a lot going on. And then Pato had DNF'd in Nashville. And then I was like, well, okay, maybe that's just because I'm a Pato fan. And that's like, you kind of lose a little bit of interest if your favorite's out. You still watch and you still are excited about all of the other things, but like, I don't have as much investment.
Well, I think Nashville, maybe the difference between this year and last year was like last year we very much still had a title fight. If
Yeah.
Will Power's seatbelts didn't break, we were coming
It
down to the
would have
last
been,
one.
yeah. It would have been
And
a very close
I
battle.
mean, this year everything was wrapped up. It didn't
Yeah,
matter who won.
exactly.
Even like stuff with the cut line, like, yeah, it was tight, but it wasn't tight like last year was. I didn't even
Yeah, like, I
feel
feel like
that,
we
to be
didn't
honest,
hear
but
anything about, like, the winner circle with that kinda stuff.
no. I will say Fox viewership, saw a lot of growth this year. We've talked on Fox before, our thoughts on
Mhm.
that. I want to put an asterisk around all the numbers that they're saying of like, yeah, viewership was up. Okay, average 1.36 million. We know that was really just 'cause the 500 numbers were so big. So that
Yeah.
feels very skewed, in my opinion. They need to take that outlier out from a statistical standpoint. But I don't know. I think that's something that I would rather watch into next year than say that like Fox saw all this growth this year. I mean, they did technically,
Mhm.
but what does this really translate into this upcoming year as
Yeah.
well?
Yeah, like, this is a single set of data points that we have to remember we don't really technically have, like, a baseline for. Like, this is the baseline for Fox. And, there's a lot of other numbers that I think we can get into a little bit more during the off season with, like, percentages and demographics and all of that kind of stuff, because I do think that those things are important, but, we don't really have the time to get into it right now. And, you guys know we have talked a lot about Fox numbers that I feel like both of us really want to do it justice when we have the conversation of these are what the numbers mean, all of that kind of stuff. So that is going to be, I think, in the future, hopefully soon, but we just don't have the bandwidth or the time right now to dive into it.
Well, and I think our next topic is much more important to talk right now
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
we got 7 months to talk about numbers.
So, yeah, we have so many months to talk about numbers. But as of right now, perfect segue into probably one of the most chaotic silly season announcements that happened within like a 2-day span.
I just can't get over the fact that Graham Rahal leaked all of this, and we all thought he was full of
Yeah.
like, he told us. Graham told us this was happening.
So embarrassing for us.
And not just, like, us even individual like, everyone was just
No,
like,
like
"Okay,
as a
Graham
collective.
Graham's just saying things," because like, surely we laughed about it, which I guess at the time we're recording, our listeners haven't heard it, but hopefully they have if they listened to the episode that came out right before this. That was a mind confusion for me, but, in our previous
The last
episode
episode before this one, we talked about it and we
Yes.
had disregarded, we basically made fun of all of these rumors that ended up being true. So let's dive into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so
So,
let's start with Colton's leaving. I think because that's the
yeah,
domino, honestly, we didn't think was real. And
yeah,
we straight up were laughing about it
yeah.
last
We were
episode.
like, oh, he would never. That's such a stupid career choice. Here he goes off to Formula One for Cadillac as the reserve and test driver for them. And he's
Test and
going
development
into,
driver. I don't
yeah.
know what the difference is, but he's not the reserve driver, he's the test and development.
So I want to say that he's going to be like, do you remember when Mick Schumacher had gone to Mercedes and had been like their test and reserve and development driver? They basically locked him in the simulator in like the offices for hours and hours and hours on end. I worry that that's going to end up happening to Colton. But he's also going into F2 at this time. We don't know what team. Am I Yeah.
You're correct on that. And
Yeah.
Dan said on F1 TV today, which would be September 7th, right before, oh God, was it Monza they raced today?
Yeah. They were at
Whatever
Monza.
Italy race it was, I watched it. But Dan Towers was basically still saying that like the deal is being finalized, which I'm hoping to mean because the money that Dan Towers has, the money Cadillac has, the money Gamebridge has, that they are just trying to get the absolute best car possible that Colton Herta could be in. And because I do not think it can't be that there's no team that wants Colton, you know?
I'm just looking at like F2 just lineups and teams because I'm like, I mean, you have Invitica, you have Campos, MP Motorsport, High Tech, Prima, you've got
I
Dams,
think
Art,
Prima could be a
Rooting.
strong possibility if they think the car's going to be good because Sebastian Weldon, who is Dan Weldon's oldest son, he's like
Yep.
15, is in, I think it's F3. It might be F4, but I think he's in F3
I
with
want to,
Prima right now, and he is backed by Gamebridge.
yeah. But here's the thing with the Prima lineup right now, you have Montoya and Mini who are both rookies this year. And there's a lot of unconfirmed seats right now with F2, like nothing is really being spoken about. It's nowhere near really the end of the season for F2. They've got, well, kind of. They've got 3 more races, but they go until December. They've got 2 more months. So there's a lot of time between now and the end of the season where a lot of dominoes can fall as well. So I don't know where he is going to end up. I think it's going to be interesting.
Quite honestly, just like I don't think it's going to be a concern in the terms of Colton of like he is overqualified for these F2
100%.
cars.
Yeah,
So overqualified for these cars that it's just going to be a
very.
matter of how quickly can he learn the tracks, you know? How
Yeah,
quickly can he learn the tires? Because the Pirelli tires we know are just a different beast entirely
they're wildly
than
different.
IndyCar tires.
But I mean, you also have like the differences within the Indy cars themselves. I mean, like, I mean, from what I have seen in terms of research and from what, drivers have said who have raced with both cars, IndyCar is a much more difficult car to drive because of a lack of power steering. There's a lot of other things, a lot of factors, a lot of technical factors that go into IndyCar being a much more challenging car to drive physically. But then you also have to remember that I think that there's a mental load within like the Formula cars that, you have a lot more buttons, you have a lot more technicalities with it that then have like a different mental load as you are driving that I think might be a different beast for him to tackle. I don't know, but that's just a thought from what I have gathered over my years of watching Formula 2 and from my research and years of watching IndyCar.
I think Rossi kind of explained it best as someone who has done it.
Yeah.
He's driven an F1 car
Yeah, but
in
he did
races.
that
He's also been
first and then made his way to Indy, which I don't know of many IndyCar drivers who have made their way to F1.
Sebastian Bourdais. That's the only one that comes to mind. But Sebastian Bourdais, who it
That's what I'm
didn't
saying,
work
like, not
out with,
many.
and that's one thing that like is a concern of just like Colton now kind of has the weight of IndyCar on his shoulders to prove that
100%.
that one, you're not a feeder series F,
Yeah.
and I'm worried about that narrative, but also just like I don't know, I'm not worried about Colton. I'm not. Like he is such a good driver. I think it's just going to be a matter of can he get up to speed with new tracks in a new car that is arguably easier than the car he's been driving his whole professional racing career.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it. I do think it's going to be interesting, and I think the narrative that's Dan said, I'm going to push off track on this one. Go listen to the interview they did with Dan Tauris, Colton Herta, and Will Power last, I guess it would have been 2 Tuesdays ago. But they did an interview right when all the news is breaking. They were kind of the one to break this, and like I think a lot of people were kind of assuming, well, Colton does this time, he gets the points to get a super license, they'll put him right into Cadillac. There is still very much a strong chance that like he could have the best F2 season, win everything, but like if Valtteri and Checo do everything amazing,
Yeah.
statistically unlikely, but if they do everything amazing, the timing may not work out for Colton.
Yeah.
So he's taking a big risk by
It is a
leaving.
big risk. And I mean, like, I feel like that's part of why part of the reason why that we had like dismissed it so much last episode of like, it's such a crazy risk to make. But like for someone like him whose name has been in contention with like all of the Formula One seats over many, many, many years at this point, of course he's going to be the one to take that risk, I think. Like, you had Alex Palou who had, potential ties to the McLaren team. That whole debacle fell through. You have Pato, who did have a Red Bull contract fall through, and then he's kind of still waiting in the wings of McLaren's Formula One team as well. I feel like he's going to be stuck waiting for the rest of his career because I don't think
It's
Lando
just
or
not,
Oscar are going
their
to do
timing won't
anything.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah, timing won't happen. And then, like, you have the super license things. It's a nightmare. But I worry less about Colton physically being able to do things. I worry about how scrutinized he is going to be within European racing. Like you mentioned, he has the entire world of IndyCar on his shoulders of if he doesn't do well, everyone's going to be like, well, he came from IndyCar. So like clearly they're a lesser series. Clearly they're bad over there. Clearly, like, we're not going to take them seriously. Like, I hate to make this comparison, but it's like the one that comes to my brain of like, well, if you have a woman driver who comes into the series, she's going to be the first one to kind of break into those barriers and have the entire world on her shoulders of she better not screw it up, because if she screws up one thing, she's going to have everybody discredit her. And if Colton does one thing wrong, he is going to get discredited. And like, that's the part that I worry about of like, well, we already don't get taken seriously as a series. I mean, just look at how IndyCar is stacked up for super license points. If we're really kind of, you know, going in that direction, not everything within motorsport is to get to Formula One, but that's what we're talking about here. Like IndyCar is somewhere in between, like, what is it? Is it F3 and F2 or is it F4 and F3? I forget what it is, but it's somewhere in,
The points that like the FIA sees it as.
yeah,
I don't know off the top of my head, but it definitely does not get the recognition that like
it does
it does
not.
as being the top tier sport.
Yeah. Like it is a top tier sport. It's just different. And I think because it's North American racing, because the cars and the chassis themselves are different, and because the rules are different and the circuits and the tracks that they're on are different, it's seen as lesser than.
It's not
And
FIA sanctioned, so it's not as good.
yeah. And it's just, I don't know. I worry that he's going to be scrutinized to a level that he's going to, I don't want to say crack under pressure because I don't want him to, but like that he has the weight of the world on his shoulders with this. He's going to be under a microscope, and that makes me nervous.
And we know that European racing is hard, but I think
It's
it's also
harsh.
when Colton does have the benefit of he grew up in European racing.
Yeah.
He did I think it was FRCA. He did whatever it was. It wasn't F4 at the time. Like Formula Renault, maybe, whatever that was
Yeah.
before it
Formula
became
Renault.
F4.
Yeah.
He did F3 and then he came back for Indy next. So it's like he does have a little bit, I think, benefit of he knows that to an extent. He did the karting series. He left home at 15 to go to Europe.
Yeah.
So I think there's
But
that
like,
benefit thing. He had the test with Sauber where he was faster than the drivers on the simulator within less than an hour faster than the actual drivers. He's had a test with McLaren. He had a contract with AlphaTauri before stupid FIA super license issues came into play. So like
yeah, like he has the talent, but it's everything else that surrounds it. That's what makes me worried. I'm not worried about him specifically, but I worry that he is under this microscope that is going to make everything feel worse.
maybe the benefit is that it's basically impossible to watch F2. So like as long as it's impossible to watch, who can judge him?
I mean,
F2, I need you to fix that before next season. I need to root on Colton Herta. Anyways, so Colton leaving.
so Colton's gone. So that means that the Andretti seat was open, and
They needed a drummer to fill that role because that's the job, right?
willpower to Andretti.
Did talk about
We did.
like
And we also laughed at that.
you did. I was a
I
little more
did.
like it could happen. I didn't think it was going to be Colton.
laughing under the, oh my God, Will Power and Kyle Kirkwood teammate debacle that I still think
Will
is
Power
going
and Kyle Kirkwood teammates.
Yes.
For real?
For real now. I still think that's going to be hilarious. But, I will say one thing with the whole like Will Power Penske thing is we talked about it last episode about how I don't like how Penske handled the situation with, we have to wait until after Nashville, blah, blah, blah. I don't like that. But
okay, I will say Will himself said on the off-track interview, Roger let him talk to teams from Road America on. So everyone was working under that, guys. They actually let him.
Okay.
And apparently Will went to Dan Towers and said, I want to drive for you.
Okay.
And then Penske offered him. Penske, after toying him around, not giving him anything, after he won in Portland, they offered him. Will told him to kick rocks.
Nice.
And I respect him for it because he said, I've been with you for 17 seasons and you toyed with me like I was nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not his exact words, but like that's essentially what he was applying.
That's
that was
the gist.
like you made me wait and wait and wait. After a season, I finished second in the championship. You told me we'd talk. Talk never came. You kept dragging me along this whole year, and it apparently really came down to like feeling like they were waiting for David to prove that he could do it, and then David didn't prove it, and so they're like, "Oh, we'll just keep you," and Will walked away.
That's so disrespectful.
Also, Will says that for the first time in 17 years, he has to figure out how much a cell phone bill costs because he hasn't had to have one because he was sponsored by Verizon. And if that's not the most alien man thing you've ever heard in your life, I don't know what is. That, and he had to get Liz to fix the internet for him because he couldn't figure out how to work the internet in his house.
My God.
I love Will Power. I'm excited for Andretti and Will Power. I don't think the yellow's going to suit him, though.
No, I definitely don't. I mean, I don't know if this has been out there. Forgive me. It has been the first week of school, so I am like not a human being. Have we figured out who his sponsors are? Is it still the same?
I'm assuming it's the Gamebridge. I mean, Dan Towers isn't going to have Gamebridge not on one of the three cars.
Well, yeah,
we
but I'm like wondering
we
if
know
that's
Will
gonna be
is in
like
the
a
26.
shifter. Yeah.
The fact that Will's talking about having to pay his own cell phone bill now makes me think Verizon's staying with Penske.
Fair. Which is wild, but
So that's a Penske partnership that it's just been with him for the whole time he's been here.
Yeah.
He's excited to not have to dress in Penske perfect gear every weekend. He's like, I can wear a t-shirt now.
Love that.
And he
Love
might grow a
that for you,
beard.
Willpower. But yeah, no, I think with the Willpower situation, I think the whole issue that I had mostly was the fact that there was the conversation about David, like you had mentioned, like, oh, he needs to prove himself. And like, I don't understand like Penske's thought process of, well, why are you waiting for someone to prove themselves when you already have someone that has proven themselves? And like, if
For
you were
17 years.
For 17 years, but like even if you were going to replace him, like you should probably be replacing him with someone that has already proven themselves anyways. But like now what does this mean for David? Because he's been the one that has been rumored to be filling his seat as of today. We haven't gotten anything about David filling the Penske seat. And so that makes me think, oh, maybe that's not going to happen, but then who would be in that Penske seat to replace Will Power? Because I don't think David should have it. Not to say I don't love David. I do. I think he's great. I've said this many times, but like, I just don't think he's ready for a Penske seat yet. And he showed that this season. I think give him another year or so, then he can move on up when he's ready. But like, who's going to be in that position?
Well, the biggest confirmed free agent we have right now is Rinus VeeKay.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that would be a good move.
I agree.
Rinus shows he has the pace. He has had multiple chances to win. He's had podiums.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't a good fit at ECR, because from my understanding, it was always that Rinus was kind of supposed to follow the Joseph Newgarden thing.
Yeah.
Joseph came in under Sarah Fisher Racing, which then became ECR, which then moved him, after he did his time there, moved him into the Penske seat. From my understanding, that was always kind of the setup that Rinus was supposed to have. And timing didn't work out, and then they brought in Scotty, and Scotty Mack has proven himself, and Will Power's there, and you have Joseph. Like, you have a lineup of, like, we're not going to get rid of these 3 guys.
Yeah.
It didn't work out at ECR. Ernest was left without a seat this year. He went to Delcoin. We know he's not going back to Delcoin next year.
Yeah.
He has
Like that
confirmed
has been
said that.
confirmed.
So that means either Renus is in the 12 of Penske or he's in the 4 of Foyt.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's what it has to come down to, you know?
Yeah. And honestly, I think Renus would be a better fit with the Penske car and just the team in general. I think he's got the maturity, he's got the experience. And, I think David has a lot to learn still. I think he has proven that he has the potential for it. Absolutely. I just don't think he's there yet. But then you also have people who are like, well, are you ever really going to be like ready per se? Or like, there are some people who can really fly by the seat of their pants. And like, if they are thrown into a situation, they can, succeed just by,
Which David did
they're just,
show. I mean, everything that
yeah,
happened
he
last
has shown
year.
that. Yeah, 100%. So like, I think it's going to be interesting to see who ends up in that seat. I think I would like to see Renus in that Penske seat over David, but I feel like there's been so much talk around David getting into that Penske seat that he might end up getting promoted early.
I agree with both ideas, and I think I agree. I would rather see Renus. I think it's going to be David.
Yeah.
Renus goes to the 4 with that technical partnership continuing there. And then just continuing of it's like almost more of maybe that like CGR MSR relationship we saw this year, instead of it being
Yeah.
the technical partnership that translated but didn't really translate with the
Yeah.
Penske Foyt.
Ugh, silly season, man.
It's not as fun as last year. I've had no fun charts to make, but like it's more interesting this year, but not as
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. No,
Less
100%.
silly.
Last year, it felt like so many like moving parts. This year, it felt like there have been
Willpower.
less. Yeah,
The
it's like
willpower
less
was the dominant.
moving parts, but they're more impactful changes.
Correct.
So that's silly season, man.
The other big thing with silly season is that we may be down a team come next year. The rumors have been really circulating that Prema is not going to be back. I think, and from my understanding from what I've read, is kind of twofold. One is the idea that like they, and I guess as a company, racing entity, have not been as impressed with coming to IndyCar and what they thought they were going to get out of it. I also think they're having issues with backing and having the money there.
Yeah. Sponsorship has been an issue with them this year.
Yeah. And with that too, I think there's the reason I'm inclined to think this is happening is Robert's been, supposedly saying that like he did not really enjoy this year. He didn't like the racing here. He really wants to get back into European racing.
Yeah.
Which makes it sound like he's leaving. And it is very, very, very all but confirmed that Callum will be taking the Joda WEC seat opening by Jensen Button retiring for next year, which would be a full-time WEC seat, which would make me think that Callum's leaving. And I don't think Callum is going to leave for a WEC seat if he had a chance of staying on the grid because he fought so hard to stay and get back into IndyCar.
Yeah, 100%. And like he's had that like WEC seat in the past, and like he has that partnership and that rapport with the series and with the teams. And so it almost feels like he's being welcomed back with open arms. Like he kind of realized, oh, there's not something for me right now. I still want to be racing, and this is my best bet, which is then like, okay, well, that means then that, the primacy isn't really going to be a viable option for him for next year. Granted, we don't know as of right now, but it seems increasingly likely.
I guess other things to keep an eye on that have no basis in anything, but Roman Grosjean is trying to get back into a seat. I don't know where he would even go. Maybe Delcoin. Delcoin's going to have an opening. And then Linus Lundqvist has been rumored to be going into the JHRC, and I don't know if that would mean Stingray or Connor. I know Connor has been quoted to say he does not have funding for next year as of right now.
Yeah. I mean, his seat has always kind of been in contention, I feel like, not as a result of him as a racer and his results. I feel like he has kind of proven that he is good enough to be there. But like, even from the beginning of the season, his issues with sponsorship and money has always been like this is a giant question mark that we don't know.
Dang it. That's the timer. We're going to continue anyways. We're going to
Okay.
wrap up.
I'm going to leave this as Connor's sponsorship and his funding has always been a giant question mark and has always been a point of stress and contention for him throughout this entire season. And so it's not surprising that he's kind of like up in the air with things, but I don't know. I feel like performance wise, Stingray might be the one who should kind of weed himself out, but like we also know
Stingray
that
has
he
the
has
money.
money.
He has
has
the money. Linus doesn't have money.
Yeah.
Connor does no money. Connor keeps telling us he's poor.
Yep.
I want to be Connor's version of poor, but that's neither here nor there. Connor's racing poor.
And we're teacher poor. It's different.
I don't know. We will keep following up with silly season, and
Yeah.
as things change, hopefully when y'all are listening to this next week, you know who's in the Penske car. As of Sunday the 7th at 8:39 p.m. Eastern time, we do not.
Yep.
But I feel like we're getting that announcement soon.
Yeah. I feel like that should be coming soon. I feel like they're just crossing T's and dotting I's and waiting for the ink to dry.
Yep. Any other thoughts, comments, concerns, complaints?
I don't want to wait 7 months for the next IndyCar race, but alas, here we are. I guess my one question I will leave with our audience is, what do you guys want to hear from us during the off season? We have ideas. We have some ideas about, bringing people onto the podcast and doing some interviews. We already have one confirmed, which I'm really super excited about. More information will come on that. But like, are there questions or are there topics that you guys want us to cover more in depth? I know at the beginning of the season, like before the season actually started, we did a deep dive on the tech and regulations and stuff like that, which you guys really, really seem to have enjoyed. I know we've done informational and educational episodes about like the hybrid and like the history of IndyCar. Is there a topic within any of this that you guys want us to talk about that we can teach you guys something, or you just want to hear us talk about? Please let us know either in the comments of wherever you listen to your podcasts, and then like shoot us a DM on Instagram. We love talking to people in our DMs. So let us know if there's something that you want us to talk about. We would love some inspiration outside of what we already want to talk about.
100% echo that notion. Socials, Racing Thoughts Podcast, we're there. We want to hear from you. We're on YouTube too.
Yeah.
If you've been listening to this on Spotify, Apple, your other platforms that maybe you listen to, we're on YouTube, Racing Thoughts Podcast. If you want to see our faces, we're there.
They're very cute faces. Hi.
All right. We'll be back next time.
All right. See you later. Bye.
Bye.